Hey everybody. Hey Andy, how are you?
Very good, mate. Very good. How are you doing? I
Very
love
good.
the collage, by the way, at the start. Collage, wrong phrase. Montage. That's it, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, and we haven't really had a chance to catch up because I don't even know which pictures are from which event. You went to three of them back to back. There's lots to talk about.
Yeah. And do you know the funny thing is when you do three back to back, you sort of go, now hold on, what happened at that event? Which one was which? And they all sort of merge in together. And obviously I was in Utrecht the week before with the guys, which was kind of interesting. It might be worth talking about that as well, actually. So
Yeah,
that was
no,
a
no, no. I, I
interesting
I
time.
know when I did the two back to back that I did, I kind of forced myself into coming back to the hotel every night and writing notes for that night because otherwise, 2 days
Yeah,
into it, you forget what you did on the first day. It's tough. It's tough.
mate. And you know, I took your advice on that. So there's a list, and I'm not giving confidential stuff because no one will be able to read my writing. But there's pages of investors, games. There's names of people who we met. You know, all done in the right timelines and stuff. So
And
yeah,
you're
so
still capturing it all analog with a pen and paper, which is old.
did you know it's funny actually? I started doing it on my phone, and I thought, do you know what? I actually think you can get better notes. I actually debated buying one of these things called a Remarkable. I don't know if you've seen it, and you write on it, and it transcribes it, and you hashtag, so it allocates to different pieces. But yeah, I'm a little bit old school in that way. Otherwise, I
Well,
forget to do it.
I used to get in this argument when I was in school with my teachers all the
Mm.
time because I used to doodle in my notebooks while taking notes all the time. I mean, in the margins everywhere. And
Mm.
some teachers would get upset with me, but in my head, I would during tests and everything, I would know what I'd written as notes because there was this drawing came into my head, and I would remember the page of the notebook page. And I think forcing you to write it down, there's something about memory and the brain and writing, the hand-to-eye coordination, whatever it is, that just
100%.
helps with memory, I think.
Yeah. I think as well, what I was doing is I actually, as we do with all these conferences, you take a photo of yourself and then you send a message at the same time. Now, if you've got that on your phone, then having the photo, all right, yeah, that guy with the mustache was, Will. This guy, that lady there, all right, she was the VC that invested in this, and
Who
you
was
can
a
get it
tall
all
guy?
down.
The basketball player.
I thought you'd recognize him, by the way. Did
No,
you not
I don't
recognize
watch a lot
him?
of basketball any longer. It's been years since I've watched NBA.
Well, funnily enough, I didn't know who he was, but loads of people were surrounding him. So I said to someone, I was like, "Who's he?" And they go, "Oh, he's such and such. He's in the NBA." And I was like, "Great!" So I just went and got a photo. Um, so I was tempted to get. You saw the Deadpool photo,
Yeah,
didn't you, from the
yeah,
previous conference? And I thought
yeah.
I was trying to get him. I was thinking I should get him holding one of the YOM dollars, which I don't
Yeah,
know. I might get one of those actually if people haven't seen
sure.
this.
Yeah, if it had been a hockey
As well.
player, I'd have caught you. But the basketball players, I don't follow any longer. Yeah, those are nice. We got to include those as prizes out to people as well.
Yeah. And this is the stickers. So again, Bank of Yom, which with Walter on it is brilliant, you know.
So
So
let's do real quick. For people
yeah,
who are just joining us for the first time, again, if you don't know who YOM is, and at this point, that'd be surprising. But we are a cloud gaming network, a decentralized cloud gaming network, right? We allow people to use their gaming rigs at home to earn a passive income. They put their rigs on our network, and we pay them to stream games from their computer to the end user. The end user can now play a video game not just through a web browser, but through Telegram, through Discord, all these other channels. So there's no download, no install, there's no gateway, there's no subscription or anything like that. You can just literally, if I'm a game publisher, I can put the game up through Discord and let the people in the Discord group pass it around to all their friends. It's great for onboarding, great for user acquisition, all very inexpensive as compared to all the centralized gaming servers, the Amazons and the Googles, which cost an arm and a leg, and it's been cost prohibitive for publishers to use it. Decentralizing it makes it like 95% cheaper. So that's who we are and what we do. It's again, we keep on saying, and I've got an article getting ready to be released about the TGE, that this is revolutionizing the gaming industry. We're going to make it so
yeah.
much easier for games to be distributed to more and more players than ever before possible. So
And just on that note, by the way, I think that the underlying point about every event that I've been to, whether it was Dev Brighton, which is one of the leading gaming events in the UK, Gamescom, where we won Tech Startup of the Year, KBW, Tokyo Game Show, or Singapore, the underlying point was that people all of a sudden, when it clicks, they go, you can do that. And in particular, this user acquisition, this increasing, static adverts from 2% conversion to downloading a game, and then a 2% conversion from downloading to actually buying the game, to moving it straight, 15x potentially. So 30% conversion from a static advert to the game. Now, let's be frank, right? The advert's got to be good. The game's got to be good. A rubbish advert and a rubbish game isn't going to get a 30% conversion. That's just not the way it works. But even if you think about good adverts converting 2% to a download, it's a game changer from that side. That's the
and that's what much of the industry is facing. People are going. I just was in a Spaces yesterday talking about game longevity and why do players stay with the same game for years and years, or the same franchise for years and years, and what's going to break them out of the one game that they love and go to a different game. It was a great Spaces. You can probably find the recording in our Twitter feed. But I think part of it was the idea that when you're inside of a game and you don't, you playing with your buddies and everything, you don't really experiment with new games. A lot of players don't try something new.
Yeah.
Not just because they're stuck on the game that they want, but the ability to try is gated by so many different gates. So we give them a chance to just click on this link inside of Telegram, or actually stay inside of Telegram. You don't even leave Telegram. Just play the game, play a sample of the game, because my buddy sent me the link, and I'm immediately playing without any kind of installs or updates to my drivers. This is going to make user acquisition so much faster. Where do you want to start? You want to go in chronological order? You want to hit Utrecht first, or you want to come back to that at the end?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll hit Utrecht first because I think that made sense. And then I'll give you timelines, and I'll probably talk more generically, I think, around the KBW and Singapore, maybe giving you some nuances between bits, but then a bit more detail around Tokyo, which is quite, because again, two crypto or blockchain Web3 events with effectively a very, very Web2 event with a Web3 kind of angle to it is where it sort of went. So KBW was obviously the first space, and even just the first 2 days, and I was there, going back to Utrecht, so missed Utrecht out straight away. Yeah. So landed in Utrecht. John Kavanagh, who's the guy who's been on one of our re-streams before, who's the guy who was one of the founders of EDOS and Hitman and all that kind of stuff, actually came over as well. So we had a really good kind of working group in the space, and we had our distributors from the UK come over. We had a 4 or 5 hour session with those guys, at which point they were like, look, we love this. This is kind of, again, these guys, to give you an idea, they've been in the distribution of SSD space for the last 20 years. So when SSDs were, or 30 years, in fact, when SSDs were not necessarily, a common thing, they were developing the technology and really kind of cutting edge in that space. They are one of the market leaders in Europe, and they distribute into places like PC World, Media Market, eBuyer, Amazon. They're pretty much the leaders in that space. So us onboarding them, and the relationships got stronger and stronger over the last couple of years, has been really important. Them coming over to see us was really kind of like, right, how do we get the next stage move on? I'm not sure. Should we put some alpha out there on next steps and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I don't know if we should.
Well, I mean, people already know that it's our first influencer got his disc, and the other ones are arriving this week. But is that what you were gonna?
No, I was going to talk about the next stage after that.
Okay.
So I don't know whether should we? I'm sure we could do this. So anyway, the conversation we had with these guys where they said, "Look, this is amazing. We love it." They said, first of all, we think that this test lot of kind of 50 or 70 nodes, we need to up that straight away, and we need to basically get it to 1,000 straight away, which puts us into, being a proper business as opposed to, a test net environment. I think that was very interesting. The fact that they were like, right, okay, how do we get involved in this? How do we invest in the business is a real indicator as to people who actually understand what they're doing in this space and understand how to distribute hardware, are looking to basically come into the business with us. is a really positive sign. I think that having John in the office as well was super helpful. I think he got a very good understanding, which then obviously he's been away with Yorit in Helsinki last week, and that's been helpful. So that was a good 3 days. I then landed back on, I think, the Friday night at like 1 a.m. or 1 a.m. Saturday morning. Had Saturday with my family, and then flew Sunday morning to Seoul. And it was like 2 stopovers, 20 hours flights, blah blah blah. So typical things from flying, which was okay. Seoul was then I was there the Sunday through to the Friday, and that was back-to-back meetings, back-to-back in the conference. I think one of the interesting things about these conferences now seems to be that there's almost more side events, and the side events are actually better than going to the conference. So I attended DePIN events, I attended gaming events, I attended dinners, all that kind of stuff, as well as obviously going to the main event, going to the stalls, going to the talks, etc. So that was really interesting. The Peak guys were there.
And Korea is one of the biggest emerging markets, both in the blockchain space, and it's already a huge gaming space, right? So there's a lot there for us to saturate in the YOM network.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's something like if you make your token popular in Korea, it literally pumps the token. Phrases about people getting on BitGet, which I think is the largest Korean exchange, just pump the token like 20-30%. So it's almost, and I think in a gaming perspective, they're number 4 in the world. So it's China, US, Japan, Korea, and then in the blockchain space, I think they must be above Japan. Anyway, so they're probably 3rd in the world, I would have thought, from a blockchain perspective.
Yeah, it's massive market. So and Peak was there, right? They invited us to share some stage space and part of their presentation. It was a good display. You liked what they were showing off?
Yeah, it was very good. I watched Leo get on stage and do his thing, and in typical German style, they're very kind of like, this is the methodical process. This is what we're doing. Their stand looked cool. It was in one of the premium spots. The only thing I'd say about the venue is pretty insane. It's almost like you've got 10 different rooms with interlinking corridors, but with people exhibiting in the corridors. So it's pretty insane.
Not one big show floor like the way that we've done the other conferences. Interesting.
No. Huh. Yeah. And it was there's one big floor, which was the I'm trying to remember, I think it was the Solana floor. Okay. And that was the Solana stage that Peak were on as well. And Peak had the biggest stand except for Spacecoin, but the Spacecoin stand was really well done visually, but a little bit like, okay, but what is Spacecoin?
What does it do? I don't think I've heard of them before.
Yeah, I mean, it had a 2-story video screen across 2 separate walls, but then 5 people on the stand talking about Spacecoin, and I think it's GPU in space.
Okay,
which. Again, you don't have cooling, you don't have that requirements, but I'm sort of like, well, hold on, satellites are more expensive. How do you keep the energy going? What happens if they go? Oh, and all I didn't. I get a feeling we might not be seeing them next year. There, do you know what I mean? They blew a lot of money, but the Peak stand was really good, and there was a full team there. They had 20 people there. They did lots of introductions to Asian KOLs, which was really good. I went round, and the focus for us for this time was very much VCs, chains which can launch their games on YOM, and any kind of product people who will be helpful to the node launch, the TGE, etc. So there was a lot of KOLs that we met there as well, which was kind of good.
That's an interesting point that I don't know that everyone recognizes. But yes, we're launching our token on Peak, and so is the licenses to run the nodes or the license on Peak. But as far as what chains our network can support, it really is open-ended, right? There's we're chain agnostic in that way. So if Avalanche or Solana, games that launch on Avalanche or on Solana, they want to use the YOM network. It's again, we're so chain agnostic that you don't even have to have. We're not only limited to Web3 games, Web2 games, obviously, the bulk of the market. They're all available to come into our network. So we don't have any kind of gate like that. If you want to activate a wallet, all we have to do is integrate the wallet with our system, which is very easy to do. And we'll onboard games from all the different chains, including no chain at all. So that's another point that people should recognize with our system. It's intentional that we're agnostic.
Yeah, and I think it's a unique kind of position. Most technology companies will only integrate certain tech, which is related to certain blockchains, and I think that's a killer kind of element for us as well. And I'll get on to, obviously I'm not going to mention names, but I can probably say, actually I might as well mention this now because it just makes sense. So from a chain perspective, what I found is as I was going around the stands or people that we met before, I was saying, hey, come and chat here. Or even at some events I went to, there was one very large layer 2, which everybody knows the name of, who were just there. And I was having to start chatting to the guy. And he's like, this is amazing. And he goes, can we integrate this? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, right, okay. And now I'm in a group with them. We're talking about how we get the integrations happening. But pretty much, I think there's only 2 chains which are of a decent size, which I didn't speak to either before we went or while we were away. So, you can use your imagination as to which 2 they were. But let's just say it was a pretty good meet. Yeah. I think one of the things I was going to say about Sol, obviously when you go to these events, you eat in the event, the food's there. Generally what I did find is that I didn't really get to eat that much because I was just like so swamped. And then being a pescatarian, everything in Seoul, by the way, if no one's ever been before, hopefully you like beef or pork, because if you don't, you're in deep trouble, So there was some cool stuff there. I ended up one night going to DNA House. So we like those guys at DNA House. And James Hursthouse was with us, who's one of our BDs. He was with me for most of the time there as well. And then he went on early to Tokyo and then went on to Singapore as well with me. But he introduced me to a lot of kind of gaming companies that he knows and a lot of kind of Web3 businesses that he's linked into. So that was kind of cool. But DNA House was a good one. That was a good event. We met.
Always put on a great house. So they were there at the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas that I went to, and their house, that was where I made most of the contacts that I made too. They put on a really nice connection. They had Vivek Ramaswamy talk the one time. It was one of the
nice.
Yeah, they get some big names in there. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, they're backed by or a lot of their relationships go to Brock Pierce. But funny, James told me a story about being backstage at an Iron Maiden concert with Brock Pierce, and then 10 years before driving around in his soft top, around LA. I was like, James, where are you getting these? Anyway, so it just gives you an idea around connections that these guys have. But again, there was a Cybertruck there for Peak. We met a lot of people. I actually met more people in the reception area, just sort of waiting. There was a couple of days which were a bit messy because it rained. And when it rains, there's like literally no taxis and it's quite hard to get up there. So that was kind of fun. And then, as I say, on the Thursday, I went to Tokyo, and Tokyo was my first time in Tokyo, my first time in Seoul, and first time in Tokyo. But Tokyo was a very different kind of play. It was very Web 2, but we did a lot of Web 2 gaming meets. And that was, again, James's connections in Tokyo, because he lived there for 17 years. He speaks Japanese.
Nice.
And we went to, we had one dinner out with 5 gaming studios, all kind of tier 1 gaming studios, which we're signing contracts with at the moment. We also went to Sony's venture capital event, which was an interesting one, because normally you go to these VC events, and you'll know this, Jeff, you go to them and there's like one VC with about 30 projects surrounding them, trying to hassle the hell out of them. And this was probably 30 to 40% were VCs. So it was a really good number. We were other bits as well. We were invited to present at a pitch event, and it was kind of interesting. They normally try and charge $5,000 to do the pitch, but because of what the success we'd had at Gamescom, they basically said, "Look, come on board. We just want you to come and pitch," which was interesting because I met quite a few tier one VCs there as well. So that was kind of good. Anyway, sorry, back to Tokyo. Yeah, the Sony event was brilliant. Interesting though, all the CEO of Sony VC and all the VC teams all had Sonium written on their thing, which is Sony's blockchain,
Right.
which is kind of interesting because they were the VC non-Web3 guys, just general VC. And actually the guy I met at Dev Brighton was in London, was actually there at the event as well. So they'd flown him over from the UK to that event. It was quite a serious event actually, which is, pretty good.
It goes to show that some of the we're now in that phase with the Web3 industry where these large corporations are forming their own blockchain, their own token, because they recognize that this is just another sign of adoption. Sony's got their token. We haven't seen a Nintendo coin yet or Microsoft one, but we know we're going to eventually. Sony just leading the way.
Yeah, and I think that what they'll do is they might even do the same stuff as JPM, where they just go, it's not a coin, it's a digital asset, and you're like, is it using a smart contract? Yes. Is it effectively a token or a layer one? Yes. But as we know, Jamie Dimon doesn't really like the idea of blockchain, but is quite happy to make money out of it.
Right.
So
he'll
end up getting fired.
I'll interject I don't know if you saw the news here, but in the U.S., the SEC has come out with a ruling. It's a non-ruling, basically saying we're not going to bother DePIN projects. That what they do is not a security. So if we have no action, we're going to be taking against any DePINs. This is a massive decision for DePIN in the U.S. that the SEC is saying, yeah, we're hands off. You guys go ahead and do your thing. So for our project and other projects like us, it opens up a massive door into the U.S.
Yeah. But even when you think about it, we're not a security.
Yeah, no.
We're not paying out based on, no work. So again, I find the fact that how it was previously is just insane from a worldwide perspective, not just the US, The other thing I'd like to finish on with Tokyo is James and I did lots and lots of meetings, and then we finished it, which you may have seen some photos in the starter. So we went to have a quick beer, and there was only an Irish pub that was left, and we were like, I can't go to an Irish pub in Tokyo. That's just wrong. So we ended up in a downstairs kind of thing that I found on Google Maps. And it was, I've got to find the guy's name and I'll promote it. If anyone's ever in Tokyo, go see this guy because he was amazing. We bought one whiskey each, and then he gave us 5 taster whiskeys follow-ups afterwards, which he was like, oh, you like Japanese whiskey? And he gave us this $2,000, Japanese whiskey. And then he gave us, you'd have loved it. And then he gave us, he's like, oh, this is Scottish whiskey because I'm half Scottish. And then he goes, oh, this is Canadian whiskey because James lives in Canada. And he did I think you've seen the videos, but he basically just he was such a nice guy, kept giving us free drinks, which was good but bad. Right. So I ended up having about like 6 or 7 whiskeys.
Oh.
And then next day, so not great. We finished Tokyo off on the Saturday and Sunday where there was kind of no events, doing tours of, James basically showed me to the Buddhist temple, which is right in the middle, and we did a little bit of touristy type stuff. And then back to Singapore. Now, Singapore, we did last year, didn't we? So we were in the same hotel. I think from a business perspective, there was very few games that were actually at the event. It was literally one metaverse project, and that was it. But the outside of the events, the DePIN events were really busy. We did presentations actually at one of the gaming events led by Ox Labs, which went very well. I think we won. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this. We won free membership to the BGA, which we're already a member of. So I don't think we need to pay them the invoice for this year's membership now, which is great. And we won $10,000 worth of I think it's advertising that we won, so I need to check that. It literally just came out about an hour ago.
Nice.
So again, another award that we won, and then we were invited by the BGA to work alongside on a panel with Big Time Games, which do massive Unreal Engine games, which we're actually talking to next week. Decentraland and Surrey Games. And Decentraland, I'm sure everyone knows. Surrey Games, if you don't know them, you should have a look because they are the number one kind of South American gaming business. And that was a talk actually on game ownership. So it was kind of interesting. We all had that same kind of model around, you know, NFT ownership, interoperability, layer zero interoperability between different NFTs, but also between different chains. So the layer zero guys, we do like them a lot. They've obviously got interoperability across tokens, but also across, I think it's called an LNFT, they call it, which enables NFTs to cross over into different chains, which works really well from a game perspective.
And again, that goes back to the spaces that I was in yesterday, where we talked about what's the you know, where's the next innovation going to come from that makes people play a different type of game or a different game than they're stuck on right now. And part of it was talking about new innovation being the path that's going to take it. The example is, you know, Fortnite became huge, not because they were the first battle royale or anything like that, but they became huge. And not just because they, I mean, they built the IP before they brought in new IP or other, you know, famous IP. It was more about the technology to do battle royales became so strong and so reliable that it supported, because Fortnite wasn't originally supposed to be a battle royale game. The original game was a zombie survival. No, it was a zombie survival game, single player. And I played that demo back when it first launched, and it was an amazing game. I loved it. But there was a portion of the team that was very big on battle royale. They were playing PUBG and they enjoyed it. They thought we could make Fortnite the same type of thing, and the technology was built now to support it. So, as we talked about yesterday in the spaces, this new technology, it's going to be new technology that brings in a new game type, and that technology was probably a combination of blockchain technology, AI being integrated into games, and then the cloud technology that we're providing that makes it easy for people to play everywhere and anywhere on any device. So those three combinations is likely going to be what leads to the next great game title. So.
Right, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. So the other bits from Singapore that was a takeaway was that it feels like crypto and Web3 generally is definitely on the way back. There was quite a lot of money being spent. There was a lot of events that both James and I went to. Saying that, by the time I was 14 days into my travel, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to that event. And I mean, on the last day, on the day before the last day, I ended up at a exclusive invite only DePIN dinner with Solana. And that was good because we met lots of, you know, Solana people there. And then after that, the next day, I had an interview with WolfDAO, who basically are good guys. They wanted to interview me to talk about the project. But I actually spent like one night, I was in bed by 9 o'clock watching the equivalent of a Bollywood romance in Singapore. It was like, it was almost as you and I remember from the 80s, you know, those kind of karate movies with a bit of romance and lots of like faces like that. So I was pretty exhausted by the end, and pretty much glad to be coming home. But all in all, I mean, very, very, very successful. The goals that we came out with it, meeting IDO platforms, meeting VCs. I mean, the VC list is almost one page long of ones that we met.
Right.
Now, you know this, it's almost a bit, you've got to kiss lots of frogs before one of them turns into a prince. Yeah. So, you know, but if you don't kiss the frogs, then they're definitely not turning into princes.
We do have some announcements
you've got to do that.
That we're going to. So next week, right? You weren't at the stand up this morning, but you're at and Ron. We're all talking about this. Next week, we want to do another one of these town halls at the same time, and we'll bring Yorit on board. He's got a lot to talk about as far as the VCs and really more about the TGE, and then going into the nano sale, which is coming up shortly after the TGE. So next week at this time, mark your calendars. We're going to be doing the live stream that's going to be focused around the TG. Between then and now, I've got an article that I'm hope to get out today. It's got some of the most important details, but there'll be more to follow. We've got some tokenomics to update in the on the document sheet, or not really update, but just make more visible, more clear in the sheet. But yeah, so it's going to be a busy week from here to the end of the month, actually all the way through the end of November at least, probably to the end of the year. It's going to be super busy for us over here at YOM, and I know that many of us are taking a look at our backlog, our task list, and saying, okay, that is not a high priority as much as we thought it was. That's going to have to go back down into the way we score things over here in our task list. We have a 1,000-point system. So the 900s are the most important things, and then the 800s and 700s. So some of those 900s that I used to have are now hitting down to 700 because the important things to get us into TG are just higher and higher. So yeah, so it's going to be a busy time. So welcome back. Don't rest too long because we need you to keep on.
Well, do you know what this week? Because you know my TG for some reason got blocked, some random reason. So I'm now the TG is my Telegram is obviously only on my iPad just to make sure I don't have any problems. So it's been really interesting. At sort of 5 o'clock ish, I haven't got it on my phone anymore. So rather than this continuous checking thing and actually losing loads of the chats that actually are not, I don't want to say not productive, but chats where it's like, it's not a core focus, has actually been quite kind of helpful. So I've been a bit, I don't want to say lazy this week, but I've been switching off at 5 o'clock, switching on at 8, but, switching off at 5. So next week I'll be back to full pace again.
I think we've probably talked about it before. I'm a strong believer in the burnt toast theory, right? When you in the morning burn a slice of toast and it slows you down because you have to put a new piece of bread and toast bread all over again. You've been delayed, say that 2 minutes to your day, but that delays the universe telling you you're supposed to show up at this time, not the time you thought you're supposed to show up. So you losing the TG, the Telegram account and refreshing it, I think that is exactly what the universe saying, okay, Andy, you're trying to do too many things and you don't need these things anymore. Go to these things instead. Right.
I like it. Yeah. I'm going to go with that one as well. That's a good philosophy. You have some great philosophy there, Jeff.
All right.
Go
ahead.
Good. Anything else? I was going to say the only other thing, I finished Singapore turning up at a massive gaming company. I won't mention the name, obviously, just because confidentiality and such like. But it was really interesting. The traction we seem to be getting from not necessarily the businesses who are going to help us today, but the businesses like Sony, like Samsung, other gaming businesses who will be our partners come, the end of 2026 has been really interesting. This gaming company in particular, and it's, I won't go into too much detail, but it's a gaming equipment business. They literally said 4 times in the meeting, yeah, we really want to test this.
Right.
Yeah, we really want to meet it. And they actually rolled out their whole C-suite to meet me. And as I was joking with you yesterday, the F1 was on, so I had to basically get there on public transport rather than a taxi. And I turned up sweating in a t-shirt to meet the entire board of a $1 billion turnover business, which was it was a good meeting to say the least. But it was kind of, I'd have preferred to have not been sweating and preferred to have got in an air-conditioned cab and got out of an air-conditioned cab. But again, the point I'm making here is it's really nice to see, not necessarily, okay, what is the impact tomorrow that these are having, but really what is the impact in a year's time? And YOM in particular, we're thinking about where are we going to be 2, 3, 5 years down the line, as opposed to, we need to be here tomorrow.
Yeah. You just popped into my head. The other interesting story that we've been talking about on Twitter a lot this week is that the Xbox Game Pass subscription debacle.
Yeah.
So that was quite a little stumble, but it was interesting because I was just watching a video about the movie Tron and how if you remember the original Tron from going way back, you probably remember. Many of the Disney animators, the old school animators, didn't want to touch it. Right? They said this is going to destroy the animation business, and they were hand draw people. They didn't want computers to invade their space, so they stepped aside, or they boycotted, which opened the door for all these new technologists to come on board and to understand what computer graphics could do, and then raise that whole industry up because these old guys stepped out of the way. I think a similar thing might be going on with what Game Pass pointed out, right? the folks at Microsoft thought that they had a good idea to do cloud gaming, which they were right. But they also were trying to do it centralized, and then realized, wow, this is expensive. Now we have to raise the subscription price. So two things that they've done: they've made it more expensive, and they forced you into a subscription. So they had so many people drop their subscriptions that it crashed the cancellation site. The web page went down because they had so many people canceling at the same time. So it's crazy that they had this problem. But again, I think that unless they probably won't, because it's just too big, they're not going to give up control of a centralized system. They're going to step out of the cloud gaming market, would be my assumption, or they're going to really downplay it. I think they tried to do, and then that's right. Their fallback was, no, we'll do it, but we'll cap you at 5 hours a month, and it'll and you can only play 1 hour at a time, but it'll be free, and then you have to watch 2 minutes of commercials before you start. All these things are, people don't like. I haven't seen a commercial, because I use Spotify for my music any longer, but I've got the premium. I'll pay to not listen to a commercial every 2 minutes. There are ways to do this that are inexpensive, that don't hinder your experience, and that allow you to access games everywhere, which again, that's a decentralized cloud gaming network that we're building. So I don't think that I think it's very interesting to watch these large guys kind of get out of the way as we make our path into the better way of distributing games, and a better way of doing a cloud.
Yeah, and there's lots of really interesting pieces, and that subscription model we were talking to a TV channel about yesterday, and they're a subscription model with some adverts, and they were saying, yeah, look, a couple of adverts people will watch, but 2 minutes, no one's going to watch 2 minutes.
Not if they want to jump in and play a game, and especially if I'm pumping it through Discord or through Telegram, we don't want to, you want to start playing instantly. We keep on saying it's instant play, right? That's what we're trying to enable, instant play. Now we'll have the flexibility for those companies that want to do, or feel it's important to do a commercial, but those commercials will likely be for a different game within their published library, which makes complete sense. If I'm a publisher and I've got this game that's pretty popular, I might throw a different game that I'm trying to promote from my library and show the video, or let you play that game too. That's a smart move, I think, to make. But a commercial, like, I'm not going to throw a McDonald's commercial in the middle of before starting a game. I don't watch that.
No, not at all. And I think if you think about who would watch that, the quality of the people that the advertisers are aiming for is going to drop dramatically. If you think about the people that advertisers want to see an advert, it's Western Europe, North America, or certain Asian countries, because they have high spending power. And anyone who's going to sit there and watch an advert for 2 minutes either is going to be a low spending country, or they're going to be young and they haven't got any money to spend. That's going to be how it works. So I just don't, I think what this will be a cycle down for them.
And we'll be there on their way down, we'll be passing them on the way up and waving at them. You shouldn't have gone
exactly out the window. Yeah, perfect. That sounds good.
All right, brother.
Cool. Okay, it sounds great, mate. Well, listen, good to catch up.
Yeah.
And hope everyone got some alpha and some interesting stuff. There is lots more to come, and there's lots of conversations we're having. So, watch this space and keep your eye on TGE. I think that's the point, isn't it?
TGE, again, scheduled for the 28th of October. We're now zooming into the 1400 time UTC. That seems to make the most sense to us. But again, all this will be out in the article that I'm dropping later on today, so long as it gets through all the edits and approvals. And then next week at this time, tune in. We're going to have Yort up on stage in the hot seat talking about TG and all things to come. So, and you'll probably be at that too. We'll probably have everybody. We'll do all the whole content, I think. Yeah.
We should do. Should be fun.
All right.
Okay, good.
All right.
Great stuff.
Have a good afternoon, everybody. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk again